We're
All
on.
right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Sky U Pod. As always, we appreciate you joining us and look forward to talking some Gopher football with you all. Just reminding you that we're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and available anywhere that you listen to your own podcast. So feel free to check us out on any platform. Like and subscribe to us helps us spread awareness of the show and spread that Gopher love everywhere. Max, Kurt, how we doing today?
Doing good. I
Good.
can't believe we're already to the last preseason show before next week we're in it with the Heel Brothers, right? Heel Brothers, our North Carolina affiliate for the College Huddle. We'll be doing a crossover episode with them August 19th, 8 p.m. So be sure to tune in. Let us know any questions you have for them. But yeah, I can't believe this is the last one. We're always trying to come up with content to fill this void, but now we're getting here and closer to college football, and it's good to be this close.
We made it. If you're still watching, thank
Yes.
you. We made it through the summer. Yeah, it was cool seeing PJ talk earlier this week after practice just about how I think probably next week they'll start looking at North Carolina tape and like actually start game prep, which at first I was kind of like, wait, you're not already doing that? But I guess they get an extra week, so it makes sense. They're going to
That's
be
true.
doing their own installs and get their own guys, do their scrimmages and all that. But
I was going to ask that. Like, do you think they haven't looked at? I'm sure the coaches have had whatever
I'm
they're
sure.
gonna. The game plan is in place for a while. Like that scouting,
Yeah.
I'm sure has taken place, but it's probably like you said, more treating it like as normal as possible for the players. Just
I
get
think
back in the flow of things.
PJ pulled the unless he really it was being honest, but I feel like he pulled a pretty savvy media move. Someone asked him about Max Johnson, one of the quarterbacks for North Carolina, and he looked at him like he had never heard that name before and was like, "Yeah, we're not looking at that yet." In my head, I was like, "But you gotta know what he's talking about."
Well, yeah, yes, but maybe as PJ's role, like he's not. We've said it before. He's not the biggest X's and O's guy, so maybe he is all
Yeah,
in on the day to day. And I think that like the scouting, whoever's the scouting team, I
sure.
hope the coordinators know, right? You hope the coordinators are peeking at
Yeah,
what they want to
Right.
do, or whoever their right hand man is. But
right.
Yeah.
um, from
Yeah,
there, yeah,
we'll see.
I'm not
Well,
on my
keeping
phone. I'm
it
just gonna tweet it out where we're at right now, so everyone can find us.
keeping it in the realm of practice. Just some news to cover. Daniel Jackson and Darius Taylor are currently hurt. PJ did speak out on it and made it seem like it was a mild situation and nothing to worry about. Which I feel like is a little uncharacteristic of PJ to do. It seems like with injuries, no matter how big or small, he really keeps that close to the chest and doesn't really talk about it. Um, Kurt, Max, what do you guys think? Big deal? No big deal? Not sure. Is PJ telling the truth?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I hope it's not a big deal. I hope he is telling the truth because at least for Darius Taylor, he kind of made it sound like it was the medical staff that was kind of keeping him out. They just wanted to hold him out a couple extra days. Kind of the same thing for Daniel Jackson. Like they just want to be sure before he gets back into full reps. And he's doing some stuff, but I don't know. I feel like he's trying to like keep everyone positive, but not give too much away at this point.
So I'm not super worried about Daniel Jackson because, like you said, Max, I think at least when I heard PJ talk, he made it sound like that one was more of like the trainers, just like, yeah, I'm not too worried. Like he'll be ready to go. Darius Taylor actually got hurt like in practice, like that people saw, and then there was like ice in his hamstring. It sounds like, according to Andy Grieger, who covers the Gophers for I don't remember who, but he's a writer for sports writer, covers the Minnesota Gophers. So shout out to him. But anyway, he was there and he said it looked like a hamstring, which I believe is what his injury was last year. So that's why the Darius Taylor one does worry me a little bit more. And yeah, PJ said it's no big deal, but I'm almost positive that's what we were hearing about Cody Lindenberg last year, and he was out half the season. So, should you alluded to it, PJ's usually not up front about how severe injuries are to begin with. So to hear him comment might have been surprising. But again, on the other hand, I don't really trust what he says at this point.
Yeah,
So hopefully nothing too bad. If it was like a torn ACL or something like that, I'm sure we would hear about it that they're done for the
yeah.
year.
Hmm.
But you know, I'm sure that if Darius can go, he will, and maybe this only gets him 30 carries instead of 40 carries that first game. So uh, I like the room
Yeah,
behind him, and we'll see how it goes.
yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, Kurt. I do think that I don't know if I fully believe PJ when he says this because you referenced it perfectly. Last year with Cody Lindenberg, we noticed that he's not suited up the first game of the season, but he's still running around. He looks like, he
Yeah,
probably has a minor injury, but we really didn't see him play until what was it? The Illinois game was his first game, but I don't even remember. It might have even been later
Yeah.
than that, but regardless, I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it the first game if I see both of them in their pads playing the ball game. So
yeah. I think
that
you could
is
make
to
an
be seen.
argument. You think you could make an argument though that like the Daniel Jackson injury could be more significant, just as far as the receivers are maybe a little bit more unproven behind him, when we're maybe
Yeah,
a little bit deeper running back right now. So
sure.
obviously you want both of them. But as far as which one might be more of a hurdle to overcome in this opening game, you could probably lean Daniel Jackson there.
Right. Well, with that, let's jump into our first topic of the night. We thought it'd be fun to kind of discuss over and unders for the Gopher football team this year. We got a lot of fun topics here, and we'd like for you to join us in on the fun. Leave comments below and tell us what you think some of the overs and unders of what we're about to shout out here are going to be. Let's start with the top. Max Brosmer, passing yards. We had the line at 2,550 yards this season, 12 and a half or 212 and a half per game. Kurt, let's start with you. What are you thinking? Is Brosmer going to have 2,550 passing yards this season? Is he going to have 212 and a half yards per game this year?
Yeah, so that's what it would average out to if you were to hit that
Yeah.
mark. So a couple thoughts go into this for me. Number one, how much is Peter going to let them throw the ball, right? I actually trust Brosmer coming in and meshing with the receivers. I just don't know if PJ is going to actually let us air it out how Gopher fans were anticipating last year. And then again, we've kind of been hearing the hype train about how we're going to throw it more. I'm kind of in the camp of I got to see it to believe it. So that's the first thought when thinking about the total. And the second one, I kind of alluded to at the start when talking about the Daniel Jackson injury. I feel really good about Brosmer's ability. I'm a little bit less confident in the receivers. I think they're going to be improved this year. Again, though, we've been saying that probably 3 years in a row. Corey Crooms was supposed to be a big addition last year, and we couldn't find a way to utilize him. So, again, those two factors are kind of what's sticking out to me here. I think he's going to be a much better passer than Ethan. I just think that, averaging 180 to 195 a game is going to show us a significant better offense anyway. And I think that we're going to be running the ball a lot when we're up on these two smaller teams after North Carolina. I don't see us throwing the ball around there. I'm sure we'll just run the ball to get out of there with a dub. So for that reason, I am going to take the under on that 2,500 number for Max Brosmer's passing yards.
Yeah. I'm probably in the same camp. I think I'm under, but I think it's going to be close. Kind of the same reasons you said. I just feel like I don't see. I mean, there's a few games where we might have to throw the ball quite a bit, or even if we're behind, that we're just going to be throwing the whole
Right.
time. But at the same time, yeah, like PJ, we just haven't seen it really yet where we just let the quarterback, let it loose, other than like the 2019 Tanner Morgan year where he did put up 3,000 yards. But like you said, we had a much deeper receiver room back then. Um, so unless some guys step up in that wide receiver room, not saying they can't, but I think it's close, but I also will go with the under.
I do think it's close, but After some research, I think that it's definitely possible. Ethan did have over 1,800 passing yards per game or during the season last year, and it felt like it was a really terrible passing season
Yeah.
last year. I do think that Brosmer is a step above Ethan. I do think that we'll attempt to throw the ball a little more, and all he really needs to do is get about 700 more passing yards than Ethan did. Easier said than done, but nevertheless, I do think that he does it. I think that his experience matters as well. He threw for over almost 3,500 yards last year, and so with that experience and I think with our ability to hopefully pass the ball with good weapons, I think that's around him. I think that he'll hit the over this year.
You know what would have been a good one to add with this is over under 300-yard passing games for him, because there's only a couple games in there where I feel like that could happen. And this is obviously preseason, so I would lean USC. I'm guessing we're going to be able to need to score points against them, so I'd put that
Yeah.
one up there. I mean,
Say
if
the
you
first
want to
game.
throw North Carolina, maybe, yeah, that's a high-powered offense that you're going up against there too. So you might need the points there. Like, I still think we'll be running the ball on them just because, yeah, I don't. That's a good point. But those two are the only ones that stand out where it's like, yeah, like we could potentially throw for a lot of yards against those two defenses that struggled a lot last year. So, because you look at Michigan, we're going to need to be able to throw the ball to even have a chance to beat Michigan, but I don't think we'll throw for 300 yards on Michigan. Same with Penn State. And even Iowa and Wisconsin will be tough to do that to those defenses. So, but anyway, it's just when I think about it like that, and then thinking about the season total, those are just the thoughts. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope you're right, Shitty.
Yeah. Sticking with Brosmer, what about passing TDs? Over under 20 and a half passing touchdowns. Max, let's start with you. What do you think?
Yeah, for this one, I think I will lean the over. Even though I took the under in yards, I think they're going to let Rosemary take a few more shots this year. We didn't really have many explosive, like long touchdowns last season. We didn't have many touchdowns at all last season. Actually, looking at all the numbers.
Yeah.
Um, so I feel like last year we did a good job getting into the red zone, but we still couldn't always capitalize. So I'm hoping that our staff looks at that and says, obviously the goal is to get close and punch it in, but even then you're not guaranteed. So why not take a couple extra shots, especially if we have a more talented quarterback? So for that, I'm going to take the over in passing touchdowns. I think we get over 20.
I'm right there with you. One of the biggest things we've heard about is how much Max Brosmer likes to check it down to the running backs. I think that can help you out a lot, especially in the red zone. And I think we'll be looking to throw a lot more once we're in goal line situations, just because teams know, we're going to want to run the football so much. Last year, we weren't really able to take advantage of that too much. But like I said, I think Brosmer is a better passer than last year's quarterback room. So I'm with you. I'm also taking the over 20 touchdown passes.
I agree. I guess if I'm going with the over in passing yards, I'd like to think that he's going to be able to hit that 20 and a half mark. Again, he's an experienced quarterback. Had 29 last year. So yeah, I believe in Brosmer. I believe when PJ says we have to throw the ball this year to be effective. I do think that we'll give it more shots. It doesn't mean that we're not going to run the ball a ton, but
Right.
I do think it'll be a little better than last year.
I like it.
Heading to the running back, Darius Taylor. In terms of rushing, the over/under this season is 1,300 yards. That averages out to about 108.3 yards per game. I'll start here. Darius Taylor, 1,300 yards. Yes, I think that he'll do it. It's a ton of yards, but if we're going to keep our identity anything that it has been over the past few years, I don't see why not. This is all assuming health, of course.
Right.
If he does stick around for all 12 games and he is that running back one and, we ground and pound, I mean, he is going to have probably 200-yard games. So
Unfortunately,
with
yeah,
that,
probably in all
right,
3 of the first games of this season with how much we're
yeah.
probably going to use him.
And honestly, it's also a credit to the offensive line that we have.
For
We've been
sure.
hearing that they've looked impressive throughout camp this year. I don't see why they wouldn't just dig up holes for Taylor to just run the ball. And so yeah, I think that he hits that mark.
Yeah. I'll add that me and Max kind of teamed up to create these lines, and definitely one of the factors here was Darius Taylor's health, right? I mean, because he was on pace to demolish this last year, just with the games he did play in. But I think health is a big deal, and we went back to even Mo's best season, and that was 1,600 yards. So I feel like the line is set pretty fair. We couldn't find one in Vegas. I'm sure somebody's got it, but that's why we set the rationale at 1,300 yards for Darius. I'm going to go under, and it's only because I think we're going to get him more involved in the passing game, and so that's going to be enough of the touches, or yards, maybe you could say, that are coming off of the ground game. And then I'm going to hold out hope. We've been hearing good things about the Ohio transfer and the Oklahoma transfer. Cy Bengura and Marcus Major. Been hearing good things about both of them leading up here to the season, so I'm hoping that they are going to spell Darius a little bit more than probably most of us are thinking they will. So for that reason, I'm taking the under, but for optimistic reasons. I want to say that.
Yeah. Again, I think I have to side with you, Kurt. Part of me is like, I don't want Darius to be on a pace higher than that because then I don't think he'll last the season. Like we looked at it last year. I mean, the pace he was on and the short amount of time he did play was like so unsustainable just from
Right.
the number of carries he was getting as a true freshman too. Like he's still kind of growing in a way. So like you said, Kurt, I'm hoping, we go back to a little bit more of like a Rodney Smith, Shannon Brooks type situation where Darius is the number one guy. Like he's gonna get the bulk of the carries. He's still the bell cow, but we
Right.
don't need him in like every single play against, I don't know, Nevada. Like, can we just not maybe 10 carries against Nevada? That'll do. Like, so I feel like there'll be a couple games that we'll try to save him a little bit. I think it could be close though too, because at the same time, if he continues to put up the numbers he did last year and stay healthy, then he could blow that number out of the water at the same time.
Right.
Um, but like you said, optimistically under because we're going to use him properly.
I like it. All good reasons.
Yeah. Sticking with the rushing game, team total rushing touchdowns. The line that we have is at 24.5. Curdy, what do you think?
Yeah. So a little bit of background. We looked at last year's, and
Right.
Max, wasn't it only we had only 13 rushing touchdowns? Wasn't it something like that? Yeah, which
Yeah.
blew my mind because we're running the ball all the time. But then think about it, it's like, yeah, we really didn't score, um, which was part of our problem. But here's the thing: I really think the offense is going to be the strength of this team this year. I think we're going to lean on that rushing attack a lot. I know I took the over for the Brosmer passing touchdowns, but I think we're also going to hit the over on the 24.5 rushing touchdowns. We're going to have a good offense this year. Maybe not elite, maybe not great, but it's going to be good. That's my prediction this year. So I'm taking the over for both the touchdown marks. And yeah, I mean, I got us with 8 wins. We got to be scoring some points. So
I like that. Um, yeah, this one I think I'm gonna go under as well. But it kind of goes back to just because I took the over with Brosmer's passing touchdowns. I think we'll maybe utilize him a little bit more in the red zone, throwing the football, just because he can. We're gonna do some play action and let him
right,
roll out and toss it a little bit just to catch defense off guard. Um, but that's really a guess. And just there's a couple, there's a lot of defenses we play that are going to have really tough, stout run defenses. So scoring on those won't be easy, especially later in the season. So for that, I'll take the under, but I definitely think we'll be scoring more than we did last year. Like one rushing touchdown a game when your strength is your running game is so bad. but not this year.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
more kicker of the year for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm going to hit the under 2. I do believe in the rushing attack more, but I am hoping for a balanced attack, which, I'm going with the overs for Brosmer. So I think in turn the rushing attack won't be as big. Um, but I mean, where the line that we have is at, 24 and a half. I mean, that's a lot of touchdowns. We're talking, 12 more than last year. That is an additional touchdown running, per game, every
Right.
game you got a rushing touchdown. It's doable. We averaged 20.9 points per game last year. Not great, but I do think it'll be better. I just don't think that they'll hit that 25 mark.
One more point on this. Those two non-conference games after North Carolina, I feel like are going to be big if we're going to hit this or not. Because I can't imagine we throw it for. I mean, if we throw it for 2 touchdowns in those games, I'd be shocked because I feel like we're just going to ground and pound. I think if you get 4 touchdowns in each of those games on the ground, which is very possible, you're already a third of the way there, basically. So that's kind of also with my thought process.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Loser owes the other winner $10 is what we're saying, right? End of the year.
Yeah, I think you're right. No, but Daniel Jackson hitting the receiving side of the ball now. 950 yards in total this season. That would be 79.2 per game. Max, what do you think? Does D-Jack hit the 950-yard mark this year?
Um, I think he does. I think going back to last year, just the numbers he put up, I think, what was he, around 800? Or was he in the
Yeah,
700s? I don't
850.
remember.
850, I believe.
Yeah. So if he's getting 850 yards last year with the passing numbers that Ethan put up, I don't see any reason outside of health why he can't go over. Um, I know we've got some more depth at the wide receiver room, but there's just not that clear number 2 yet either to kind of share the load, if you will. I think it'll be Daniel
Right.
Jackson as the clear number 1 as far as production, and everyone else probably a little bit even, just playing their strengths. But yeah, I think we can go over. We've had pretty good history of our top wide receiver getting over 1,000 yards somewhat recently, so I think he can definitely do it.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you, Max. Daniel Jackson's easy wide receiver number 1, obviously. He's done tremendous even without us having a big passing game. And if it's anything like we're hoping it's going to be this next year, I think he'll definitely hit that mark. Um, yeah, I like that line. Easy money.
Well, I'm with you guys. So that gives us all 3 on the Daniel Jackson train this year. I think, watching that he put up over 100 against Iowa last year in tough conditions with maybe the not the greatest passing attack. You're bringing in Brosmer, plus hopefully get some additional help. I think Daniel Jackson is going to crush it. I think he's getting to 1,100 yards this season. Bold prediction, maybe. I don't know, but I like him to get there. And yeah, I think we're going to have an okay passing attack, and he's definitely going to be the main reason why.
Right on, fellas. I like it. Transitioning to the defense here now. We're looking at sacks. Total defensive sacks this season, 24. That would be 2 a game. Um, Boy, oh boy, I got to tell you guys, I like this line. I think that the Gophs will hit it. I think that finally we're going to see a little aggression here from the defensive side of the ball. I'm not saying Rossi's defenses weren't great. Obviously, they were awesome. But I felt like we were very conservative. And I think, Kurt, you would always say it perfectly. It was a bend, not break defense. I think this will be, again, more aggressive. I think that we'll get a lot of linebackers involved in blitzes. So I do think that in total, the sacks will be over 24. Not to mention, our defensive line is looking to be one of the best we've seen in a long time. So I got us hitting the 24 mark.
Yeah, I honestly wasn't even thinking that much about the potential of blitzing linebackers when looking at this line. My
Oh, no.
hesitancy is, the coverage aspect. Are we going to be giving up easy completions over the middle again? Because that's going to make it awfully tough for our Jaw Joyner and company to get home, even when they do get pressure. So I'm going to go over. I'm going to be optimistic about it, but there are some question marks on this defense that I don't think it's a slam dunk. I know 2 a game doesn't sound like a lot, but you know, I don't think it's going to be necessarily as much of a layup as maybe some fans project. But I hope you're right. I hope we send the house. You're right, Rossi. Even it didn't matter. That was my biggest complaint with Rossi, is that it didn't matter like how well the defense was playing or not. It's just we would still try and focus on not getting burned. And sometimes you just gotta blitz them, try and cause some disruption that way, instead of hoping that they'll make a mistake, instead of, well, you hope you don't make a mistake. You know what I mean? Got to try and force it on them to make a play a little bit more often when your defense is struggling. So I'm hoping we see more of that, and I'll go over as well.
Yeah, I'm also going to take the over. Yeah, we talked about Corey. We talked about Corey Etherman being a defensive coordinator that likes to bring a lot of pressure, which is something we've asked for a lot of. But like you bring up too, Kurt, like how much pressure are we really going to be able to dial up with inexperienced defensive backs? So I think there'll be a little bit of they'll have to meet in the middle somewhere. I think there'll be more pressure than there's been, but not just unrelenting blitzing and, crazy pressure all the time. But
Right.
with the talent we have at defensive end, and if we get some more linebackers blitzing, I don't think there's any reason why we can't hit that number, especially with some of the early games where I feel like the first 3 teams, North Carolina likes to pass the ball, even though they have a really good run game. I feel like they're going to be throwing quite a bit. The next 2 are going to probably be playing from behind and passing a lot. So I feel like the first 3 games will give us a pretty good idea of where we'll be at and what kind of pace we'll be on. But yeah, I think it's definitely doable with the defensive lineman we've got.
I like it.
I like it. Yep, that's going to be good. I think this is going to be a great defensive year, guys. And sticking with that, over under on the turnovers caused this season. We have it at 16 total turnovers caused. That's about 1 1/3 per game. Max, let's start with you. What are you thinking?
Yeah, this one I think I go under. I think for what we just said, I think the number of interceptions is probably going to drop off quite a bit, especially with Newbin gone. I'm hoping someone else kind of fills that, takes over for his production and as far as creating turnovers goes. But for that, I'm just going to take the under. I think, hopefully there's just more, like we said, more sacks, more pressure, less balls being thrown, less opportunities for interceptions. Maybe we're creating more fumbles. I don't know. But I just think we go under. I think it drops off a little bit from the last 2 years.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm also taking the under. And you already hit on the main reason, Max. Who's going to replace Tyler Nubin's ability to take the ball away? I think of the Iowa game, the Nebraska game. He had multiple turnovers. So I think Justin Wally has the ability to be that guy. And even last year, got a couple of picks. So I'm hoping that he is that guy that generates some of that. But it's tough for a corner to be the main guy causing all the turnovers. You got to be pretty dominant at that position to be a force there. It's a little bit easier from the safety position when you're roaming the field and you're a really good player like Tyler Nubin was. So, yeah, Max, I completely agree. If we are going to hit that number, it's probably going to be some more strip sack type situations or forcing the ball out on the ground. But, obviously I hope we get there. Probably going to be pretty important for this defense this year just because I don't know. Like the defense is tough for me to gauge at this, especially at this moment. But like how well they're gonna take the step forward, because obviously last year wasn't good enough. So we'll see. But yeah, I think the safe bet is under.
Need to break it off with you two on this one, but I'm going to go over. I'm really confident in this defense this year. Really averaging a turnover a game, I guess, isn't totally unrealistic. My only problem is we are facing a lot of great teams this year that I think will be pretty disciplined with, without turning the ball over and everything.
Right.
But I do think that it's doable. I agree, Kurt. I think it'll have to be a lot of forced fumbles, strip sacks, whatever it may be. But hopefully, a lot of people in the secondary really do step up. Hopefully, we find a new ball hawk like Newbin was last year. So I'll
Right.
hit the over on this one. Now another transition
Yeah.
to
Special
special
teams,
teams.
baby.
New coach.
This one,
Let's go.
boy, just as a just to preface special teams, it has been so terrible over the past several seasons
Which
that
is why
I
the
don't know.
lines are where they are. Just saying that now.
I don't know how much worse it can get. I think this year we finally, hopefully, do something better. Not saying that's going to be great, but better. To start off, kick return yards, 250 yards for the season. That's 19.8 per game.
Max, I forgot we wrote it down what was like in the middle last year, and maybe we didn't write it down. I should have wrote it down, and I didn't. I like you said. Well, okay, this is gonna sound negative. I think there's a very real chance we go under again if there's not personnel changes made to who's returning this football. Um, I know he's the leader. We don't have to name him. We all know who it is. We've complained about him enough. I'm glad he's on the team. He seems like a great guy. Maybe there's some competition there. Maybe Coy Parrish is out there now returning kicks. Maybe he doesn't start on the field as a safety, but as a returner, he's pretty fast, pretty shifty. So I think if we keep it an open competition to get some of our better athletes out there, I'll take the over. Listen, it shouldn't take more than 2 carries to get over that 20 mark for the game, right? And you're probably going to at least get 2. You're guaranteed 1. You're probably going to give up a couple scores in the game. So come on, fellas, let's do this. Let's get over the averaging 20 yards a game for kick return.
I hope so. I will take. I'll take. Let me take it this way. I think it's under for kick returns. I think it has
Because the
more
defense
to
is
do.
so good.
Yes, sure. I think there's just more of a philosophy of like, let's just fair catch it, and let's just take it. Let's just take it where it is. Get the ball, no risk. And there's so many kicks that go out of the back of the end zone. Yada yada yada. So I think kick return wise, I think there's less in the player's hands. I'll put it that way.
No, that's a good point. And that's, I mean, right? That's PJ's calling card.
Yeah.
Be as risk
Unless
averse
this new special
as
teams
possible.
guy is like, look,
Lights a fire under him.
Look at these numbers. This is not good.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I feel like. Sorry, go ahead, Shuddy. Then I'll make a comment about this. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I agree, Max. I do think a lot of it is PJ. The ball's the program. Don't risk the turnover. Take it out the 20, 25, whatever, and go from there. No risk. But also, Kurt, like you said, we do need to have actual the best athletes. Someone with breakout speed, the fastest guy on the team. Just field the ball, take off. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm looking at it right here. Last year, there was a total of 362 kickoffs. Yeah. 25 were returned. Average,
that's not good.
Average was 14 and a half yards. So all you need to do is get, I guess, per game, 20.
I just think if you break like a long one, like if you just get, not even score, but if you break like 2
for the season
to their side of the field, that's going to carry a long way.
Yeah.
Here's what I was going to bring up, though. Do you think Coach Shekelesh, what's his name? Something weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is it like was it
Leshesky? Whatever. The new special teams coordinator. I picture there's that episode in The Office where Michael Scott declares bankruptcy, and then Oscar the accountant is helping him look over his budget, and he's like spending like $300 a month on like infomercial like stuff that you see like on TV. I feel like that's how he walked in and look at the numbers and be like, okay, we are doing literally nothing to help out this team in their return game. Do you see how that could be an issue? And Peter's just like, but no fumbles. Like he's just like,
Yeah,
we're
he's got
not
a big
fumbling the
ol'
football.
number of days since the last
Yeah,
kickoff was fumbled.
exactly. And our new special teams coach just pointed, and you have not returned a kick since Rodney Smith against
Yeah.
Nebraska
You've
6
reduced
years
your
ago,
chance
whatever
of
it
scoring
was.
points by 1 billion.
Yeah, exactly. Like I feel, yeah. Anyway,
Bob
that's just what comes to my
Ligashevsky.
head. Huh?
Bob
Ligashevsky?
Ligashevsky.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry,
We
Bob.
need to get the coaches.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that, Bob.
Yeah.
If you're listening, leave a comment.
I'll send it to him. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going with the under. I don't know if I said that, but I'm going under. And sticking with it, probably even worse, punt yard. Well, actually, this isn't punt return yards. I'm sorry. These are punting yards. Actually, it
No.
might be worse.
These are punt return yards. Sorry, I might.
These are punt. So it is worse. It is worse. We for this. I'm sorry. I got to keep it together here. For this season, we have it at 80 yards for the season. That is 6.67 a game. 6 and 2/3 yards per game. Do the Gophers hit it? I'll just say it. No, we're not.
No.
We're not gonna hit it.
No,
I'm sorry.
He's way more worried about a fumble on a punt. Like that's the one you're probably going to fumble more often than the kick return. So for all the reasons you guys said no to the other one, I'm taking the no on the punt. Especially because I feel like there's plenty of space for our returner multiple times last year, and it was just fair caught or let. The one that really gets me is letting it bounce and then just it rolls like another 20 yards. It's like, why are we not catching this ball? But anyway, it's not worth getting worked up at this point. I'm going to take the under.
Sometimes you can let it bounce and score as long as you don't flail your arms around.
No.
I'm taking the over. Dumb luck. We break a couple.
All right.
Other than that, abysmal. Good luck, fellas. We get 81.
I like it. And all it takes is one. One return is going to like shatter the odds of this hitting or not.
Right.
And, we play Camp Randall last game of the year. We've had a punt return there in the past.
It's a good punt return field.
Stranger things have happened.
That's true.
Like PJ's face.
Well, that was fun.
All right. I don't want to. We're moving on.
We got another topic for you all tonight. This one is fun. We are predicting our 12 college football playoff teams for 2024. As you all know, the new structured playoff, something that should have been implemented many years ago, but nevertheless, we got it now. 12 teams. I'm interested to see what you guys have to say, because it might be telling on what conferences have the most teams, or is it evenly spread out? What group of 4 teams are going to be in it, if any? How do you guys want to do this? Do we just go one for one?
I think we should start with the top 4 seeds, which would be your 4 Power 4 conference winners.
Okay.
I know those won't all match up, but I think it's easier to go from there.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Shitty.
Yeah, I'll start if you guys don't mind. I'm going to go with. I think this is probably standard across a lot of people's boards, but I think the number 1 team is going to be Georgia. I don't think they're skipping a beat. They think that they deserve to be in the playoff last year. Yada yada. They're a great team. I think that they'll hit the number 1 spot. Number 2
is tough. Sorry, just want to add that in there. That's the only thing that gave me hesitancy, but I agree. Sure. I think they're a top 2 team. So
yeah. Number 2, Ohio State. Self-explanatory. We've discussed it on the last episode or two. I think they're coming out of the Big Ten. Number 3, this one might shock you guys, but I'm going to go with it anyway. I'm going to go Clemson. I think that they'll edge out. I think they'll edge out Florida State this year. I think that they'll be the ACC champs and are just a great team. Got the Clemson, and then over in the Big 12, believe it or not, I got the Utah Utes at number 4.
We
I
have the
think that they'll be
exact same
conference
top
champ.
4, Shuddy. That's crazy.
Wow.
We didn't talk about
Um,
this at all beforehand. All right.
uh, just looking at it, I do think that each of these teams are going to dominate. Well, I shouldn't say dominate. They'll win their conferences, have a great record, and I think that if you're in one of those conferences, why shouldn't you get some of the top seeds in the college football playoff? If you're a runner up, let's say for Ohio State, for example, if you are a one loss SEC team and you have an Ohio State that also has one loss, but they won their conference championship, if they are in ahead of Ohio State, I think that would just be absurd. Or
I don't
any
think
other
they can, right? I thought the conference winners get it. I thought that's how it went. Or am I making that up?
automatic bid or
I
automatic
thought they got
placement
the.
here.
4.
I thought they
They
got the
get the
Oh,
top
they
top
do.
4.
That's what
Oh,
I
okay.
thought.
I didn't know that. I like that. Good. I'm glad that they implemented that. So,
So
The-
even if Notre Dame goes undefeated and just destroys everyone, the highest they can be is 5th, which is interesting. But I'm
doesn't
sure
bother me. Their schedule is half of
Yeah.
it is weak most of the time.
they
So,
can only
Right.
play themselves out of a spot.
right. It's a failure. Just to preface, I think they're going to be in the playoff because of their schedule.
Hey, spoilers. We're not there yet.
And I do think that any coach that coaches at Notre Dame, if they don't make the playoff, I think that they're on the hot seat immediately for that reason. But anyway, Max, since Curtis and I have the same, top 4 teams, what's yours? Similar, different?
Yeah, I have the same 1, 2, and 4. At 3, I just have Florida State.
Sure.
I just think they're on the ultimate revenge tour. I know they're replacing a decent amount of guys, but I feel like they brought in a lot of talent. They got a lot of guys from Alabama transferring in too, which is kind of nice for them. So yeah, I took Florida State, just edging them out over Clemson.
Yeah. And I will say that was more gut feel on my part. I think Shirley kind of alluded
Yeah.
to that too. Florida State will drop. Not last year. Last year they went undefeated with all those injuries, and they still got the shaft from the committee. But yeah, I hope Florida State wins it. To be honest, I like them as an outside fan. But yeah, I think that's a good pick. Do you just want to start at the bottom then, Max? Do you want to start just go 12-5?
Sure. With 12 for mine, I just took because I know it's the next highest conference champ gets an automatic bid, right, from any conference.
I think so. Yeah.
So for that, I've got Liberty.
Oh,
The
okay.
Liberty
Yeah.
Flames. They went undefeated last year, didn't they? Until their bowl
Yeah.
game. And
Was it last year? I think
Yeah, I
you're right.
think
pretty
so.
sure. And their schedule is. They're in a pretty winnable conference. They've still got a lot of talent. So I think they're just
Yeah.
the next conference winner. I think they make it
Sure.
at 12. I don't think they'll be any higher. 11, I've got Penn State. I feel like they could be higher, but it'll probably lose a game that they're not supposed to, but they still make it.
Right.
10, I've got Notre Dame.
That's my 10 as well.
9, Ole Miss. I was really going back and forth between Ole Miss and Tennessee. But I keep forgetting that Tennessee has don't they have a freshman quarterback that could be really good, but just unknown. I feel like Ole Miss has just kind of been on the cusp. So we'll see. Their
Yeah.
transfer portal offseason was crazy. So Ole Miss at 9. I've got Clemson at 8. 7, I've got Missouri. There's a couple games that could put them way higher, and I think, a dark horse. I don't think they'll beat Georgia, but I think they could be in the, fighting for an SEC
Absolutely.
championship spot. And then 6, Texas. 5, Oregon.
All right. I'll go next from there. My 12 is also that next highest conference champ, like you said, Max. I took a look at this squad, and I really picked them just for the schedule. Now, they open with Oregon, so they're going to get boat raced, in my opinion. But Boise State, I feel like, has a very favorable schedule after that. So I like Boise State to sneak in there winning out the rest of the way, winning their conference, and getting that 12 seed in the playoffs. So that's my 12 is Boise State. 11, I also have Missouri in the playoffs. I have them at 10-2. Um, it's I think the SEC is one. I think they are actually pretty good this year, but they're also going to get the benefit of everyone thinking they're really good. So if you have 2 losses and are in the SEC, as you'll see, I really like your odds here. At 10, like I said, I have Notre Dame. So 12 Boise, 11 Mizzou, 10 Notre Dame, 9 I have Texas, another 2-loss SEC team. 8 I have Penn State. I think they only slip up once, but they still get the 8 seed. At 7 I have Oregon. Again, I think they'll be really good. So I got 3 Big Ten teams. At 6 I have Alabama at 11-1, and Ole Miss has a pretty favorable schedule as well. I have them at the 5 spot at 11-1. So I have 5 SEC teams in there. It was not just all talk for me when I said it a couple of shows ago. I think they're going to get 5 of them in. I think Texas sneaks in. I think Missouri sneaks in with multiple losses, and I think Bama and Ole Miss and Georgia are actually really good teams, so they're going to get in as well. And like I said, three Big Ten teams in Oregon, Penn State, and Ohio State, and just 1 from the Big 12 and 1 from the ACC for me.
All right. I like it, both of you guys. Mine are a little different, and my number 12 is a little risky, but I think that I'm going to go with it anyway. I got Tulane, the Green Wave, at number 12. Their head coach did departure, and quarterback went to the NFL. Those are big, big losses. They did have some transfers, too, that followed their head coach. However, they have a great team. They've been dominating the AAC as well. If they do have an undefeated season, I don't see why they wouldn't make it. And it's possible. So I'm going to go with them. My number 11 team is going to be Penn State. I think that Penn State will be that kind of third man out of the CFP, or fourth man, I'm sorry. I think that they'll have a great season. And yeah, that's what I'm going to put there. Next, I'm going to go with, what do I have here? I'll do Notre Dame. Again, they're not really going to be conference winners, but I think that they're going to be a good team. They'll
Very
have to make
favorable schedule.
yeah, they're going to make the playoff regardless unless they lose some bad ones, which is possible, but I think they'll be there. Number 9, I got Michigan.
Ooh,
I think Michigan will make
I
it
like
this
it.
year. They're not going to be anything that they were last year, but I think Sharon Moore is a good coach. He beat Ohio State. I know that there's been, some people left, but they do still have some great players. He's a good offensive mind. If they can keep that up, I think that they'll be able to compete. After Michigan, I have Ole Miss, like you said, Max. Ole Miss has been on the cusp of winning in the SEC. They've just lost some games here and there. I think that they'll be able to pick it up. So next at number 7, I think I'm on Alabama. I think the Crimson Tide will be able to make it. I think that they'll probably take a step back from last year, but I don't think they'll really skip much of a beat with Nick Saban leaving. And then up from there, I have Oregon. Oregon is. Oh, I'm sorry. I messed this up actually.
It's all right.
Because I need my Florida State. I think that Florida State. Excuse me. I think Florida State will be at the next spot for at 6. Yeah, I just think that, Florida State's a good team. Like you said, Max, they're going to be on a mission this year. I do think that they lose a good one to Clemson, but nevertheless, I do think that they'll make it there. The number 5 spot, Texas. I think that Texas is going to be the runner-up in the SEC. they got some great recruits, though that they have had some injuries I've heard over in camp, so that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
I don't give them the edge over Georgia, but I do think they'll be the runners up. Um, yeah, I'm missing Oregon though. I think Oregon's my runner up. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna bump out Penn State and put Oregon one behind at 6 behind Texas and shift everyone back, I think.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess, sorry for me, 5 Texas, 6 Oregon, um, 7 Florida State, 8 Bama, 9 Michigan, 10 Ole Miss, 11 Notre Dame, and then 12 Tulane.
So I think if we were to compare ourselves to what a lot of people are picking, everyone's picking Miami out of the ACC, and I think it's just because they added Cam Ward. But when does Miami ever put it all together?
No,
It just doesn't
no.
happen.
They kind of remind me of how Texas was prior to maybe the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Texas we're back, and really,
Yeah,
they
only
weren't.
so much less.
Right,
Yeah.
but so much less. So
And then if you were to put like another Big Ten team in there, so you bumped out Penn State, so obviously your next one in
Yeah.
would be Penn
yeah,
State. I guess
yeah.
this is more for me and Max. Then who do you think? It's probably between two teams if we're thinking along the same lines. Do you think Michigan or Iowa, just based on what the schedule they have, has a better chance of sneaking into the playoff this year?
Between Michigan and Iowa,
Yeah, because you have Michigan in, don't you?
yeah, they're in. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
you got
Michigan
Michigan
over
easy then.
Iowa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. I do think if you have a 2-loss, you know, is it group of 4 now or is it group of 5? I'm sorry, the
It's
group of
group of
5,
four
group of 4. If
or
you
power
have
four. Sorry, no, you're right. Group of five. I was misunderstanding.
yeah,
Power
group of
power
5,
four is the big conferences. Group of five is the small. Yeah.
right? I think that if you have a 2-loss teams across all of it, maybe even 1 loss, maybe that 12 won't be a Tulane or a Boise or a Liberty. Maybe Penn
It
State
has
hits
to.
that 12 spot,
It has to be
right?
though.
And
They have to be
and
a
that'll be
conference
a whole
champ.
new dramatic story to talk about. But I agree. I think it has to be that way.
Yeah.
And I might lean that way, to be honest. I don't know if we'll have one of those dominant teams this year.
I think just looking at how when we go through and do that college football pick'em thing that Max sent us to actually decide who would win these conferences, I really don't think there's much of a shot of a 2-loss Iowa team making it. I think they have to go 11-1 to give themselves a shot, just because they're not going to have like if you put all these SEC teams in, and some of them are going to only end up with 2 losses, and they're going to have way more ranked wins compared to Iowa. Just by the time not to the fault of Iowa, but I think Iowa has to go 11-1 to even have a chance at making it. So I would lean Michigan. Sorry, I just think Michigan has the talent to actually win those games. That yes, it's a tougher schedule. I don't. I I just don't trust that offense at Iowa yet. I knew that they're excited about their new offensive coordinator. The quarterbacks are off to a rough start from all sounds of it, but you know it is Iowa's defense they're going against too, so that probably has something to do with it. But yeah, as far as the question I brought up, I would lean Michigan, I guess, sneaking in over Iowa this year.
Yeah, I would go the same. I still think Michigan has a legit shot to win the Big Ten. I feel like everyone's just
Right.
written them off, but like I think they still have a shot. And if they do take a bigger step back, either way, I think their schedule affords them just the possibility of a very very strong resume,
Right.
even with two
Right.
losses. Like if your losses are to Texas and Ohio State, but you beat Oregon, and then you go and
Yeah.
maybe play a close game in the Big Ten championship game.
Beat a tough
I don't
Minnesota
know.
team. Probably not
Yeah,
going to happen for them, but
Indiana.
that'd be a nice feather in their cap.
So yeah, I would lean Michigan as well.
Yeah. All right, guys. Good show.
Well, Right on. Well, everyone, again, as always, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Sky U Pod. Be sure to check us out on YouTube, X, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. We encourage you to check out our partner's website, thecollegehuddle.com, for many more college football podcasts and articles. Again, Monday, August 19th, we're teaming up with the Heel Brothers to preview the upcoming game at home under the lights. As
Send us your
always,
questions.
yeah, send us questions. Shout out the Heel Brothers. They're a great group.
Yeah.
But as always, thanks for tuning in. Go Gophers.